Oi, oi, and welcome to another Budget Guitar Show. Well, what you're about to see is something a little bit different, something that I've never done on this channel before. A couple of days ago, 4 guitar YouTubers, who I'm sure you might know, got together to have a bit of a chinwag about their favourite and their worst pieces of gear. Now, this is one of those sections. Now, this features John Robson. It also features Steve Cassidy, The Lamb, and myself. So here we are discussing the most surprising piece of gear that we own. Enjoy.
Most surprisingly good piece of gear that you've ever owned?
That's got to be what I have just down here, and it's the Sonic 8 Matribox 2. Multi-effect pedals for me have always been not the best thing. I tend to sort of, I like the distortions that they knock out, but once you start adding the other effects, it just gets too, what's the word? Too mushy, too clogged up. But the Matribox 2, I've got loads of stuff set in on that, on the California lead setting, which I generally tend to use. And I just think it's fantastic, and especially for the money. A couple of £100 gets you one of these, and there's so much you can do with it. And the settings, everything about it, you can tailor every little bit.
Do you use it as an interface then? Because I know I had the Matribox 1 and you could use that as an interface.
No, I don't. I just use it as the pedals, the settings. I have a Focusrite 6.6, I believe it is, which I use as an interface, and I have that going into that as a sort of input. So I have the guitar input going into the Sonic 8. I have the Sonic 8 going into the Focusrite, and that is obviously connected via USB to the laptop.
Okay. Do you use it live?
I have used it live. I used it live with a duo that I was in for a bit, and I found that using the drum machine and everything on it was just what I needed. This replaced a whole amp rig for me. Okay. Just had it plugged into the PA and all the settings there. It maybe to change the tempo of the drum machine, I just had to do in between songs just a little turn here and there, but you can have it all set up on the screen, so you don't have to keep faffing around clicking different things and all of this, so I found it really easy to use. The only thing I've not been able to do on it is it has the expression pedal, but I've never been able to make that a wah-wah, because it's supposed to connect to your computer, and you can use a thing there, a program for it, but mine just won't connect. So I haven't been able to test that part of it. It works as a volume, but other than that, everything else on it, is perfect. You can use it live, and I hope to be using it live end of this month with a gig that I've got coming up, because it's got some sounds that I need.
Yeah, it's surprising. I remember there was the piece of kit that I really was gassing for back in the late 80s, early 90s. I think it was the Boss. I always get these the wrong way around. The Boss BE5 or the Boss ME5. There was a programmable one, and one that was just basically a bunch of Boss pedals glued together, and programmable. That's like having an effects rack. I can be Steve Lukather, But yeah. So, anything you don't like about it, apart from the fact it doesn't talk to your computer?
There's probably too much in it, because there's a lot of different sort of preset modes where you can save your own presets to it. And that just boggles my mind. I like the fact that you can alter all of the actual presets that are in it. But it would boggle my mind to try and set one completely myself, having like the California lead setting and then having another setting on the other foot switch and all of this. That to me is just too far. And also the other thing, and I have to say this, and I'm sorry, Sonic Cake out there, if you do watch this, but you should have some instructions with your pedals and your you know, all of your gear. The instructions for everything that I've had from them have been absolutely terrible. They don't tell you how to work them at all. So you have to, like I've done with this, I've had to go absolutely simple and go in blind with it and just get something that I think sounds good to me. Okay. Without any way of actually knowing what to do with it, you know. So I think that's the one thing that I don't like about it, is the fact that there are no instructions. Even the online manual is the same as the one that you get in the box, and it's pretty confusing. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I don't like about it. But structurally and how it performs, I'm very, very happy with it.
Right, feel free to chip in, lads. By the way, this isn't an episode of Parkinson. I'm not the interviews chair. You know,
I was going to say something because you reminded me of something. Because there's like quite a few of these on the market now. These sort of there's almost like two classes of multi-effects. So if you take like the Helix and the Quad Cortex and all of those, they're massively expensive. And what you're paying for in those, or what it feels like you're paying for, is that they're recouping the costs of their whiz-bang AI modeling nonsense. Because I remember, like you say, when in the days like you had the Boss, was it the GT6? I had a Pod, I had a Zoom. They were all like £100, £200. But the £1,000 effects unit is quite a sort of different. That sort of came along later. And I think what's happening now is you get these sort of Sonic Cake and stuff like that. They don't really care about recouping the cost of the software, because I guess maybe they're buying it from somewhere else. But it just seems like I've never been quite able to justify dropping 1,500 quid on a multi-effects pedal. And I remember my Pod for £99 did 80% of the work. You know, it's that was the one. Yes, I've had that. I've had a Pod HD. I had a Flextone modeling amp, because it's just the other point I was sort of going to make. And now I use like Amplitude with, you know, 1 million options and 1,000 plugins. But like Johnny says, what I end up doing on all of those I've ever done is picking one amp model and just switching some effects on and off. It always seems to just, you funnel it down to a particular sound, and then that's it. And the other 2,000 options can go swivel. You know?
That's it. I mean, I have the Fender Mustang 4 amp down here, and that was when I originally bought that, it was to take it out and use it live, because it was a modeling amp and I could get some good sounds with it. Now I've figured out how to use it. I don't actually use it live. It sits here and just gathers dust, because I use a Fender Supersonic live and just, you know, crank the gain on that. So, you know, I spent the time to really work on the amp, and I don't use it. You know, I don't even plug it in here. You know, I use the Sonic Cake here for everything. So.
Right.
Why don't you like and subscribe to the Budget Guitar Show? It's free and helps me thrive. Watch the videos and comments and keep the show alive.
Well, I think we'll move on. I believe going round the screen. It's my turn next. Most surprisingly good piece of kit. That was gear and kit, by the way. The most surprisingly good piece of kit that I think I've ever had. I can reach for it now and show you.
Uh-oh.
Jet JT 350, 299. I think they're a bit cheaper than that now, and it's got a tortoiseshell scratch plate. So you know, I mean, straight away, it's
Forgive me for that.
It's off to a good start. As you may know, because I might have mentioned it once or twice, I've had stainless steel frets put into it by the wonderful chaps at Agrajag. CTS pots, orange drop capacitor, brilliant little pickup, brilliant Artec Alnico 5 Hot Rails knockoff, 25 quid on Amazon. Brilliant pickup, fantastic. To crank the volume up, you've got a Les Paul, you've got that kind of ballsy bridge humbucker sound. Back it off, and you can do the country twang thing with it. You know, it really does kind of give you that sort of Telecaster thing. Neck pickup, kind of a really kind of low output humbucker. This is just the stock pickup that came with the guitar, and again, crank the volume up, and you've sort of got that classic neck humbucker, Parisian walkways sort of tone. But back it off, and you can still do what I think is the textbook. I'm not plugged in at the moment, so I can't really demonstrate this. You can still do what I think is the textbook Telecaster neck pickup solo. That one I won't play anymore because we don't want to get a copyright hit. And you know, and in the middle, it's out of phase. So in the middle, you've got all your Peter Green kind of tones and everything.
Was that on purpose or was that accidental? Because my Telecaster, I put a P90 in the neck. The middle position is out of phase. Not my intention, but I like it.
No, it was accidental. When I picked the guitar, because James at Agrajag, he fitted the pickup when he did the frets, and I went to pick the guitar up and plugged in to the whatever amp it was that was in the workshop, and went to the middle position. Oh, I said, that's out of phase. He says, oh, just give us a second. What? I said, no, you know, we're having that, we're leaving that, thank you very much. But when this was the second jet guitar I tried. I think I had the JS 300. And even that one, which is like 150 quid, Strat copy, just immediately the feel of the neck was, oh, this is rather good. It was similar to when I first got my first Sire guitar, where it just hang on, this feels like really expensive. The first guitar I ever really kind of remember thinking, actually, yeah, you can feel where the money's been spent, was a student of mine had a Carvin GT6 California, I think it was. It was when they were still called Carvin. They hadn't rebranded themselves as Kiesel by then, and you picked it up. And if you just kind of half shut your eyes, it looked like a PRS Custom 24, but with block inlays rather than birds. And you picked it up and you thought, oh, no, this is nice. And this is, you know, I've had custom shop Strats and USA core PRSs before, but this was the first time I'd played a guitar that made me think, actually, yeah, you can feel where the money's been spent. And then when I got a Sire guitar, that had a similar feel, but the money hadn't been spent because it was a Sire, you know. And then the same thing with jet guitars. You know, I'm a massive fan of them. And that, as you know, the guitar that we no longer mention, my ex-signature guitar, you know, I don't have a signature guitar anymore, but if I did, it would look a lot like this. The only thing I would change would I'd have the truss rod adjusted down here with a spoke wheel adjuster. That's the only thing I would change. Everything else, this is just, well, it's sort of just become my number one guitar. There's nothing it won't do. So there you go. That's my best / most surprisingly good piece of gear that I own.
You guys are really selling me on the Jets. I might have to get one. I know Steve likes them.
Yeah, the Jets are really good.
So,
John, have you considered the four-way switch for your Jet so that you can have the middle position as well as the out of phase? Are you not missing it?
No, because when I want that sound, I've got Paisley Telecaster over there, and I've got the Nashville Telecaster, which has got that sort of regular middle sound in there. So when I want that sound, I'll just I'll just pick that guitar up and do that, you know.
See, that's the smart way of doing it. I'm guilty of just wanting every single guitar to all do the same thing. Every guitar does everything.
Right. So, Mr. Lamb, I believe it is your turn.
Next. Mine is also a guitar that I have on hand. It's not one that I only bought this a couple of weeks ago, and I just thought it's Harley Benton. What are these called? SC 500, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's basically a rip off of the Gibson Custom, isn't it? That's what they're going for with the black and the gold. This was 140 quid or 149, I think, something like that. And I bought something else at the same time, so I didn't even have to pay shipping. And that was the only reason I bought it, because I gave away my gold top one. So I had no sort of single cut Les Paul rip-off guitars. So I just sort of sat on the site for a while, and then this one came up, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's amazing. There are a couple of flaws, but they're both cosmetic. One, I don't know if I can show you.
Is it the strap?
What's that?
Is it the strap?
What's wrong with the strap? Nothing wrong with that strap. There's a little break in the binding somewhere, and then they just obviously just lack it over. They sort of sod it. And to be honest, I can't remember where it was now. But that's quite consequential. The other one, I don't know if you can see, but the neck pickup sits at a sort of a weird. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it's sinking away into the surround. And if I raise this pickup up, only this side comes up, so it just gets more and more wonky. But apart from that, I mean, I can probably plug in just for a little, give you a Tony thing. But the reason I wanted a guitar like this is, obviously, you probably know I'm quite into Mark Knopfler and all of that, so you've got to have one for your brothers in arms. Yeah. It does all the nice. It'll do it clean. So
I do like the sound of a clean humbucker guitar. It just that sort of smoky sound. I can't really describe it any other way. It just, you know, especially.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, it's obviously it's fatter, but it's a lot more. I wouldn't say they're more dynamic as such, because they're very quite compressed. But what happens on a Strat, or I do kind of favour single coil guitars, is that once the attack is gone, what you're generally left with is sort of high end and mid range. With the Les Paul holds its bass for much longer, it's like a more even sort of tone, I guess, as it sustains, which is quite a nice.
Was that one of the Harley Benton are putting like stainless steel frets into everything these days, aren't they? Does that have the stainless frets?
No, I don't think it does. I think it's basswood because it's not crazy heavy. It weighs about the same as my Telecaster. But who gives a toss what it's made of? Yeah, it might have been. I can't remember if it was a B stock or if it was just. I think might have been a B stock one, but I just like the look of it because they've got the look down spot on. In terms of just the black and the gold. I mean, the headstock, the tuners are sort of knockoff Grovers. Yeah, they've got that same sort of look. So like at a glance, you'd go, "Oh, that looks expensive," and then when you get a bit closer, but. The one thing about it is it plays amazing. I've had Les Pauls and a few others. I had one of the tribute models, which you quite fancy, don't you? I had one of the first run ones, and that was a horrible guitar. In fact, if it was still here, it might even come up as one of one of the worst bits of gear. But the reason for that was the pickups that had P90s in it, and they were so microphonic you couldn't amplify it. Apart from that, it was great. It played well. This plays just as well, if not better. So I pick this up all the time since I've had it. You know, that's always a good test, I think, because I've got a selection of various instruments from tat to quite nice. And when you buy one, if you sit down and you go, oh, I'm going to play my new guitar, you know, the longer you're doing that, I think the better the purchase was. I go, no regrets. It's hard to have buyer's remorse for £149 when you're getting what is essentially, I mean, it sounds like it and it plays like it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't have the name on the headstock. So that would be my, you know,
This is my Epiphone 54 reissue. And this, I paid about 400 quid for it. It's now worth, I think I've seen one for sale for about £2,000. And, you know, that Harley Benton there, although this has got P90s in, it does the same job as this.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, they even went to the fuss of doing like, it's like the triple, I don't know if you see that, but it is the proper triple ply binding and everything, you know. So they really, I mean, if they're going to skimp, you could skimp there and no one would blame me, but they didn't. It really, you know, I love this thing. Maybe speed knobs are a little bit, but then the black on the black works.
Yep.
So in terms of functionality, I can't fault it, which basically means it's perfect, doesn't it? I mean, like I say, it's a couple of. I will have to take that pickup out. Another thing that makes me think this is B stock, or it wasn't new. That pickup that is wonky didn't have any plastic on it when it came. But the other thing is these strings. I eat through strings. Like I've got that body chemistry that will just rot a set of strings. I used to play in a sort of acoustic ceilidh joke band / you know, Irish folk, Scottish folk, all of that stuff. And I used to play like Martins and Martin strings, but I'd have to change the strings between sets because my hands would be white, like I've sort of sucked the phosphorus out of the strings, and the strings would be completely dead. So that's how long they'd last. They'd last about an hour. I haven't changed these, and I've had this for a couple of weeks, so maybe 4 weeks. So I think these might be coated strings, which I don't think is what they come with. I don't think so. I might be wrong. But because I have seen like the Dario, is it Triple XL or whatever, those coated ones on some of the high-end Harley Bentons, but I don't think they put them on this. So I think someone's had this, put the strings on it, and then maybe complained about that wonky pickup and sent it back, and that's why I've got a good deal. I don't mind the wonky pickup at all, but I'll get in there and fix it one day.
Just a bit of foam underneath, that's all.
That's all it needs. Yeah. There's just a bit of support, really. But I mean, it still sounds good. You know, it doesn't make much difference. But that's my choice. And the strap didn't come with it, by the way. That was entirely my own doing. Yes. I thought, what strap will pee Steve off the most? And I put that one on it.
Yes, Steve Cassidy, the Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen of the game.
Well, I know the Scottish are naturally averse to rainbows because they hate anything that's made of colour.
In fact, Steve, you should start a new section for your channel called Changing Straps.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there's other names I could say. No, I better not. I just wondered, Lammy, because like you say, you've got to go over the 149, haven't you, to get the free shipping? So I thought maybe that's what the strap was there. Just.
Right. No, I actually bought. I tell you what I bought for it. A friend of mine who's just started learning. He bought one of the Brian May Harley Benton knockoffs, the BM75, which is also really good. Needs a bit of a setup on that one, but that was good. And one of those little Nux mini plugs. I don't know, but that's what I bought for him for about £50 because he had no amp or anything. He's like, what am I going to play it through? And it wasn't like the super top end one, it was the mid-rangey one. So I think I paid about 55 quid for it. That's a great little thing that you can just plug in. And you've got an app on your phone with Bluetooth that, again, can do all the settings. And you can play from your phone to it. So you can play along to stuff. It's got a drum machine and it's got, you know, basically, it hasn't got 1,000 different effects, but it's got maybe 30 that you would actually use. So that was actually a cool bit of gear.
I've got one of those down here somewhere in a little pouch. But yeah, they're fantastic. Those are.
Yeah.
They really are.
So, I believe it's Mr. Cassidy's turn.
Right, so, big surprise. I didn't actually think of what I was going to do, but as soon as you brought out the Jet, John, I just thought, yeah, it's going to have to be the Jet, isn't it, for the most surprising piece of gear. But seeing as we've done Jet, I'll just put in the same category the Fasley Finneker when they were a thing. So both of them, because I got both of them around about the same time, as soon as you got the neck in the hands, like, whoa, okay. Because I think I'd seen some reviews on them, people saying they're good for the money and that kind of thing. You just expect, okay, it's going to be another sort of square or a, yeah, there you go, Johnny, that's the one. That's the Fasley Finneker. As soon as you get that neck in your hand, it's just, right, okay, so they could do Fender.
When they discontinued them, they were banging them out for like 50 or 60, weren't they? You know.
Yeah, that's it.
See, I think, and backs have been really nice to me, but I think that was a mistake because to my perception and probably most of the market, they went from having a guitar, I mean, yeah, you could get them for 60 quid, but even at like £150, the Finneker was a killer guitar, you know, it knocked the pants off any Squire and all the rest of it. And then they discontinued them and replaced them with a range that sits at the £300 mark, which is like a different ball game altogether. And every time I just think, we'll bring back the Finneker. Can we have the Finneker for like £200 again? Because I don't see the value in these. You know, they've got nice finishes on the top and they've got the nice scorch one and everything else like that. But underneath the guitar that plays the Finneker was perfect, really. I don't know. I think they might have. I don't know. It feels like a mistake to me that they got rid of that.
It was round about the sort of lockdown, COVID time, or whatever time it was around about them, and demand's high for new guitars. And Jet were saying that they couldn't keep up with their own sort of orders getting out, so they had to say, sorry, Fasley backs, we're going to have to just concentrate on doing our own stuff. So Fasley were kind of forced to come up with something else.
So anything that, I mean, I asked Johnny about this earlier, you know, with his favourite piece of kit, the Sonic Cake. Is there anything about the Finneker that you dislike?
Well, I mean, they're great mod platforms is what I would say. If you're a beginner, then it's good. But what I've been encountering recently, well, if I go back to Jet again, because it's kind of like the same thing, Jet seem to have changed the supplier of their saddles, and there's a little bit of an issue with them, where instead of having like a channel or a string guide through the through the center of the saddle, it's actually got a hump. So it's like when they've been casting them or something, the metal, I don't know, I'm just making things up now, but they've got a hump, so instead of it going through the center of the saddle, it sits to either side beside the screw. So like on, say for example, on your fourth and third strings, you could have the D string to the right and the G string to the left, so you've got like this sort of bigger gap of string spacing. The old saddles used to be stamped with MVB, might be a Wilkinson thing, I'm not sure, but yeah, they were fine. But speaking of changing suppliers, on the first earlier runs of Jets that I had and Fasleys, the tuners were pretty stinking. They were quite grindy and stiff to turn. Whereas I got a Jet GS300 very recently there, and that doesn't have the issue. So I'm guessing there've maybe been some changes in the hardware. So the tuners are better now, but the saddles are maybe not so great. So you probably want to look at maybe upgrading some parts. That's the only downside.
The string tree. The string tree. That evil string tree. But I'm entirely with you on that, because on my Telecaster, it's one of these roasted neck ones. And I don't know what happened. It was quite early on. I got it. It was on a live stream. The string tree actually popped out the front of the headstock and was gone. So I replaced it with like a Dalwin one, you know, like a nylon sort of self-lubricating white one. And that cost me like a couple of quid. It was nothing, you know. And I know like the roller ones and things like that. I'm with it. Why do they keep using this bit of bent metal for the sake of what has got to be 50p? You know, it is. Yeah, sometimes you look at guitars and you think, why didn't you think about that bit? You know, that was a silly sort of thing just to overlook. It just makes you think, oh, you really, you know, what else have you overlooked?
My bullfighter, you know, the bullfighter guitar I got from Amazon that is strangely similar to the £400 Fasley, or the burnt thing that they did. The string trees on that were those they call butterfly string trees, something like that, and they were terrible. So I just got a couple of gold roller ones from Amazon for about £1.50. Put those on, and the tuning stability went up so much, you know, for the sake of £1.50.
While we're on the subject of, you know, spoiling the ship for a ha'porth of tar, I've just got a guitar in here, which I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it is, shall we say, a large UK music retailer's own in-house brand. And its initials might be S and K.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you thought it was good, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, why not subscribe? I may be uploading some more of this very soon, but the other guys will all have their own sections to upload on their channels, so do keep an eye out for all of those. We must thank our budget backers, who are of course right here. If you wish to join them, click that join button down below. I'll be back with some more content very, very soon, but until then, stay safe, stay sane, keep rocking, and oi oi guys.